Hello Internet! I've just got back from Nashville where the Pokemon World Championships 2018 have just been held. I finished 23rd in the day 2 of VGC, which is pretty satisfying. I'm quite happy with that. I have finished higher twice in the past, but finishing in the top third of the tournament, highest ranked UK player, I'm very satisfied with that. It means that my streak of always finishing positive at Worlds is still intact as well, which I'd like to keep on going. So I know the VGC 19 rules have just been released, and there's a lot of excitement in that. So this is why this video is going to be very brief, basically, just looking over the team that I used and briefly how I got there as well. So first of all, let's have a look at the teams I used in the main 4 tournaments of the season. I did go to all 4 international tournaments. The first one in Europe was still back under the VGC 17 rules, so that's why that team looks a little bit different. But I actually got quite a few points from that top team as well. But the second team there, the Oceanian one, is the first team I used seriously, I guess, in the VGC 18 format. I got some points in Australia. I finished 3rd in the regional in Sweden with this team. I felt it worked quite nice because Intimidate was not released on Incineroar at this point, so it wasn't that common. So, I got quite a lot of points actually from both these both the top 2 teams there. But after Incineroar was released with Intimidate, I guess I kind of went to Blaziken. I used Blaziken for pretty much the rest of the season. I used some pretty strange stuff in Latin America, as you can see. The Persian Vivillon combination I do still like, but maybe wasn't the most solid thing. I guess I was sitting on quite a lot of championship points at that point, and didn't really feel like it was too necessary to try and get too many more. But I don't know, it sounds strange to say. Maybe didn't just didn't take it as seriously as I probably should have done. But back for North America in July, just last month, I went back to more of a sort of VGC 17 style. As you can see, it's very similar to the first team up there, just with Blaziken over Arcanine, I guess, Fire-type, Thundurus over Xurkitree, Electric for Electric, and the Clefairy was a support Pokemon in place of Drifblim there, just because I kind of wanted more of a Trick Room answer. But for Worlds, I was most successful with those top 2 teams, the VGC 17 team and the Malmo team, the Oceania team. So I guess I kind of wanted to make a bit of a mash-up, a bit of a combination of both of those 2 teams. But there was another team that I had in mind as well, and that was this one. Obviously, the team that I did very well with in the 2016 World Championships. And I used Scarf Smeargle on that team. And no one has used Scarf Smeargle really at all in the VGC 18 format. So I thought, I can maybe make some surprise moves here and try and get Scarf Smeargle to work again. So I guess I kind of put together a mashup of those top 2 teams on the last slide and my Worlds team from 16, and ended up with this, which maybe looks a little bit strange, just on the face of it. But I felt it worked quite nicely. I know you can't really tell by laddering on Showdown, but I did ladder quite high on there. I felt pretty comfortable with the team. I did like the Pokemon in there. I was very comfortable with all of them in there. I've used all of them lots of times in the past. So, I felt pretty good going into the tournament. I felt like if I got the matchups in my favour, then, definitely I could do very well. I knew there were some things that I struggled with, but, I guess every team struggles with something a little bit. But let's have a look at the Pokemon in a bit more detail. First of all, Smeargle. There we go. I like that. I didn't really need to change the slide too much from the 16 PowerPoint that I made as well. So this is Smeargle. It is a little bit different from the 16 one. I went with Technician this time, just because Swagger isn't a thing in VGC 18. So I didn't expect Smeargle to get confused at all. And Technician just boosts the damage from Fake Out, which sounds a bit insignificant, but actually I have won a couple of games, in practice, just because of the damage, slightly extra damage from Technician. The spread is a little bit different to the one I used last time as well. This little bit of special defense gives me a slightly better roll against Helping Hand, Dazzling Gleam from Scarf Lele, because Scarf Lele was one of the things that I did struggle with a little bit more. So, just the little things that might help a little bit. But I did want a spread that was quite heavily invested in HP, just because I got Transform on the Smeargle like I did back in 2016. Now, the IVs there are for Hidden Power Ice as well, so if I transformed into something with Hidden Power, I'd have Hidden Power Ice. Obviously, I didn't have Dark Void on this Smeargle because it doesn't work. So Spore, Fake Out, Transform, Switcheroo, pretty much the same Smeargle I used in 2016, and it worked in the same way as well. Maybe more of a surprise that I've got a Scarf Smeargle this year, so maybe some surprise Spores as opposed to maybe not so much of a surprise Dark Void 2 years ago. But Transform and Switcheroo were definitely surprise moves that did work out quite nicely for me throughout Worlds. I really like these two moves. I did try some different moves. It was the Switcheroo slot that I was a little bit, wasn't too sure about. I did try Soak on there to combine with my Kartana and Thundurus, but I don't have Z moves, electric or grass Z moves on either of those. So it wasn't like I could one shot any Cresselia anyway with Soak. Mat Block is obviously a consideration on there as well with Scarf Smeargle, but I don't think there's any bigger any bigger turn 1 indicators that it's a Scarf Smeargle and just going straight for a Mat Block. Whereas I could have gone for a Fake Out, and if they switch or if they've got a Scarf, a Spore isn't necessarily a giveaway 100% straight away. But I don't know. There's a few moves on there that I was considering as well. Maybe Helping Hand, maybe Follow Me even still as well. But I felt Switcheroo was, even with the presence of Z moves, I felt Switcheroo was probably the best one for me. But Tapu Lele, strangely enough, is not Scarfed. I've been using Scarf Lele pretty much the whole season, but obviously Smeargle's got the Scarf this time, so I went with the Psychic Z move. It is very, very powerful. Even though I am timid on this spread, I did want to outspeed timid and Jolly Landorus's, without the Scarf, obviously. Does a lot of damage. The bonus of not being Scarfed is, there's a few bonuses really. One of them being you can lead it against Tapu Koko and still have your terrain, which is wonderful. And the other main one, is that I can have a move like Taunt on this Tapu Lele, which, looking at the team, back on the team preview, you can see here, it does look a little bit weak to Trick Room. I have got Switcheroo on Smeargle, I've got Scarf on Smeargle, Spore rather on Smeargle, which kind of helps with Trick Room. But having something like Taunt on Tapu Lele is a second option that, especially if I know that it's not got Mental Herb or the Z Trick Room, I can just Taunt it and stop it from doing stuff. You can Taunt, Snorlaxes and anything else, Clefairies, anything that might be a bit of a trouble, you can just Taunt it and, it works out nicely. So, I guess, it's a pretty straightforward moveset, that, isn't it? The only other thing that I was considering was Ally Switch, which sounds a bit, I don't know, controversial, but Ally Switch, not necessarily for the switching of the allies, but for the potential plus 2 speed from the Z move, which I thought would help more speed control in a way. But I guess in the end I thought Taunt was definitely the most solid option. The EV spread is pretty much 252, 252, but just a little bit of jiggling with defense stats, which I think those 12 defense EVs give me a better roll against Landorus's Rock Slides. I think 252 Kartana, in case it was a Sash Kartana, means that I always survive a Leaf Blade as well, if they don't have Smart Strike. So I guess it did a few things, but it's a pretty straightforward spread. Next is the return of Mega Tyranitar, which I was really happy to use again, because back when I was using Mega Tyranitar in Australia and in Sweden, when Incineroar wasn't around with Intimidate, this thing was, obviously there was still Landorus, but they had Jinx on that original team. This was pretty nice. When Incineroar was, released with Intimidate, Low Kick was quite a common move on there, but you don't really tend to see many low kicking Incineroar anymore. So I felt Tyranitar was maybe a pretty good pick going into the tournament, considering that Incineroar is really one of the biggest things that's going to be around, potentially on almost any team. And it can't really touch Tyranitar unless it's got low kick, the odd one that would have low kick. So Tyranitar, I thought, could be pretty good. It's always nice to be able to have some way to control the weather as well too. And, it's one of my favourite Pokemon. I do like Tyranitar. It's a really good setup Pokemon. Obviously in 16 I had Xerneas and Rayquaza to set up. Dragon Dance from a Mega Tyranitar is, pretty good setup as well. So, obvious moves, obvious abilities, all the rest of it too. The EV spread there, I'm pretty sure, is exactly the same as the EV spread that I used on my Mega Tyranitar back in VGC 14, which is quite amusing. But I did look into some calculations. I don't think there's anything really that this spread can do better. I don't know. I'm sure you've all got other spreads out there for your own Mega Tyranitars, but I like this spread. A lot of people do like Adamant on their Mega Tyranitar, but this team is a little bit weak to Tapu Koko as well. So just being able to outspeed at +1 was a must, really. Flinch chances and everything are always a bonus. Take them when you can. So, really, really straightforward Tyranitar, I guess. But let's have the other setup Pokemon, or one of the other setup Pokemon, rather, to combine with Tyranitar. Good old Kartana, which I have been using a lot, actually. I used quite a lot in the VGC 17 format. And, I went back to it again this format just because it's such a good Pokemon, such a good typing as well, too. And, okay, it's frail on the special side, but the EV spread that I've got here means it can survive a Tapu Lele, a Scarfed Lele, modest, terrain-boosted Psychic, and, everything on that level as well. So, Life Orb, Thunderbolt from Koko, and other sneaky attacks like that. It can survive most of them. Not so much attack investment. I am jolly as well too. I did keep the max speed. I did notice a trend of people going Adamant with their Kartana and not going max speed towards the end of this format, which, I'm sitting there licking my lips thinking, well, it just means that I'm more confident my Kartana is going to outspeed yours. I've got Swords Dance to compensate for the slightly less attack as well, but one Swords Dance up is plenty, really. You can one-shot a lot of things with a +1 or a +2, if you don't get intimidated by anything. Interesting enough, I went with the Fighting Z move as well, just like I did in 2017. And I guess, I don't know, it's actually I did in 17 as well. Yeah, because Arcanine was, I guess, the biggest check to Kartana in VGC 17, and a +1, a all-out pummeling would one-shot that. In this format, it's most the same, really. You don't even need to be +1. A neutral all-out pummeling will one-shot Incineroar, which is lovely. So it's just one of these Pokemon that can set up. It's got a really nice speed tier, and with this specific Z move, can one-shot most of the Pokemon that my opponent is more likely to be bringing to deal with the Kartana. So you see what I'm going, where I'm going with that. It's a pretty good Pokemon. I really would have liked to have had Smart Strike on here, but I couldn't get rid of Swords Dance. I obviously couldn't get rid of Detect either. But this team, like I said earlier, I felt was a little bit weak to Tapu Lele. And Gardevoir as well, obviously the same typing. Gardevoir was a bit of a pain for this team. I don't really have anything that can hit it super effective. So I've kind of got to, hit it a couple of times to knock it out. And in that time, it's going to be hyper voicing and potentially Trick Rooming, which is the biggest concern. So Smart Strike on Kartana would have been a really nice addition, but I feel this is probably the best that. I feel it's the best that would fit on this team. I mean, I'm saying that. It's just pretty much the same Kartana that I've been using on every other team. But I'm very comfortable with it, so, I like it a lot. But, we had Smeargle, mirroring the VGC 16 team. We've also got Volcarona here, mirroring the VGC 16 team. This isn't the Quiver Dance Volcarona that I used in the Jinx team earlier on in the season. This is a support Volcarona with Redirection, Rage Powder, Overheat Protect, a really bulky spread there, which survives lots of things, really. Survives Rock Slides from Landorus, survives loads of things. The speed outspeeds Adamant, Tapu Bulu, so Adamant base, 75s. But I did want to stay modest. I did want to hit the bump, as you can see with the 36 special attack EVs there, just so that Overheat would actually have a bit of a punch. It can one-shot quite a few Among Us. Tapu Bulu is one-shot by it as well, so, and Mega Metagross as well, which was actually one of the really big reasons why I did want to keep Volcarona on this team. I did consider switching to maybe a Selgor in this slot, but I really wanted some redirection, and I really wanted a fire typing as well, just for Mega Metagross. That was a pretty big problem, especially considering that I've got a Tyranitar and a Tapu Lele on this team. The last move, which I didn't mention just a moment ago, was Tailwind. I did originally have Whirlwind, again on this Volcarona. I did have Whirlwind on the VGC 16 team, mainly for opposing Xerneas, but it did help with Trick Room, and I did originally have Whirlwind on this Volcarona as well, because, like I was saying, I was a little bit weak to Trick Room, so I did want maybe another answer for Trick Room. Whirlwind is a pretty much, unless they're going to knock my Volcarona out, is a pretty much guarantee, stop to Trick Room as well. So I did like that, but I felt that I was a little bit too weak to Scarfs. Like I keep saying, Scarf Tapu Lele, Scarf Nihiligo was very nasty for this team. Scarf Tapu Bulu was pretty nasty for this team as well too. So the ability to Tailwind, having a little bit more speed control, was actually really good. Having Tailwind on this Volcarona did lead me to winning at least one of my games at Worlds. So I'm glad that I kept with Tailwind in the end here. If Struggle Bug was legal on Volcarona this year, then I would have tried that out, but maybe I would have ended up with Tailwind anyway, just because the speed control is pretty nice. I don't tend to use Tailwind much as a move generally over the years, but I'm definitely happy that I went with it this way. The Wiki Berry on Volcarona means that it is very, very bulky as well. It can take lots of hits, and Flame Body is a bonus as well too. Especially if there is a Mega Metagross, the Flame Body is a really, really nice chance. So Volcarona is one of my favorite Pokemon. I've been using it for years. Interestingly enough, that I've used it twice now at Worlds in the bulky support capacity instead of the Quiver Dance mode, which is the one that I tend to prefer, but maybe when it comes to Worlds, I have to pull out the bulky Volcarona. Now, the last slot is a little bit of trivia, actually. Every time that I've competed at the World Championships, I have used Thundurus. So, here we go again, Thundurus. And this is quite an interesting Thundurus, interesting item, which, people I've found tend to like this Thundurus when I show it to them. It looks very straightforward. It is very straightforward. But it is pretty effective as well. On the Jinx team, with Volcarona and Tyranitar back in the first part of this year, I had Jinx with the Adrenaline Orb so that I could outspeed and one-shot even Assault Vest Landorus, even Scarf Landorus. It was a good answer, pretty much a counter really if I could get it in on the Adrenaline Orb to Landorus. With Incineroar around, Jinx basically became, I'm not going to say almost useless, but nowhere near as good as it was. Thundurus obviously doesn't really do too much to Incineroar either, but it's a good fit for the rest of this team and a good answer to Landorus as well, I found. If it is Assault Vested Landorus, then it will survive a Hidden Power Ice from this Thundurus, but they're not going to be one-shotting Thundurus with a Rock Slide, which was very nice. If it's a Scarf Landorus, then this Thundurus being timid will always outspeed, and unless it's really bulky, will outspeed it with a Hidden Power Ice as well too. If it was Assault Vested, and if I wanted to try and make the read that they were going to maybe switch out, expecting my Hidden Power Ice after seeing the Adrenaline Orb activate, I did have Nasty Plot on this Thundurus, which, I like my set of Pokemon, which was, in some games, very effective. Some games I would literally lead Smeargle, Thundurus, maybe get an Adrenaline Orb boost straight away, Nasty Plot straight away, and sweep through the team. Sometimes it was a little bit underwhelming, really because at +2, you still don't one-shot Heatran, you still don't one-shot Incineroar with Thunderbolt, and I really wish I could fit Sludge Bomb on this Thundurus. It could even be used potentially over Protect, maybe. I might consider that, if there was any more of the season going on. Just because Tapu Koko is a little bit of an issue for this team as well, and it is quite often that the Adrenaline Orb does get activated, so, +2 Sludge Bomb, I'm pretty sure would be knocking out Tapu Koko as well. But, I felt these four were the best moves. It's a very straightforward set. Very straightforward EVs as well, too, just sort of maximising the stat points from there. Obviously, the IVs for power play damage as well, too. But, yeah, it worked out. It was just one of those hit-or-miss Pokemon. So either it worked out really nicely or not so well. Kartana was one of the things that I did fear most with this team as well, considering, again, I've got a Lele, I've got a Tyranitar, I've got my own Kartana. I would expect to be faster with my Kartana. Volcarona obviously pretty good against it, but Thundurus was one of my other answers to Kartana as well. If Thundurus was faster than the Kartana, it made it a lot easier, but if the Focus Sash or whatever, is not going to go down, or Assault Vest is not going to be knocked out by a +2 Thunderbolt, whereas otherwise most others would be. But Thundurus does resist all of the common attacks that Kartana has got, Obviously, Leaf Blade critical hits are a thing, but it was one of my other answers to Kartana, which sounds a bit strange, really, considering that the main attack here is resisted. But I don't know. There you go. There's the team. There's the Smeargle, Mice and Scarfed, just mirroring the 16. Tapu Lele with the Psychic Z move. Mega Tyranitar, same spread as my trusty VGC 14 one. Double Z moves, actually, which, interestingly, I did have on the VGC 17 team as well. I did have Z Kartana, and I did have Z Arcanine on that team as well. So Z Fire and Z Fighting. And, yeah, I guess I went with the dual Z moves again this time around. Bulky support Volcarona and this strange, maybe catch off guard for game 1, Adrenaline Orb. Thundurus. I mean, the other good thing about the Thundurus is you can make some really nice sort of mind games with it. Like, more often than not, they're going to be leading Landorus against this team, so I could always lead Thundurus, get an Adrenaline Orb boost, then maybe the next game not lead Thundurus because I'm thinking, well, they're probably not going to lead Landorus, and it's quite nice how often that works out. It means that, Smeargle and this Thundurus was a nice lead against leads like Charizard, Y, and Landorus as well. Any answers to Landorus, I'm happy with them, basically. So, I've maybe gone on a little bit much about this team. We're over the 20-minute mark, aren't we? So, here's the final standings of Worlds 2018, top 8 there. I mean, this is before the Top Cup played out, obviously. But as you can see there, I finished as one of the higher 4-3s. I think three of my opponents in Swiss rounds are in the top 18 of this. I played Melvin, who finished 9th in Swiss. I finished Fede, who finished 17th in Swiss, and I played Brady round 1 as well in Swiss as well too. So my resistance is pretty good. Like I was saying in the beginning, I'm very satisfied with this finish. Top 3rd of the tournament. I really can't complain. I'm just happy that I did above average again. It would have been pretty disappointing to go negative, but, I've been using an interesting team, and it worked out okay for me, I guess. As I suppose, maybe if you've been watching me for a number of years, I don't really like using standard teams. I do tend to use teams that I find fun and interesting, and I feel this is a fun and interesting team. So, VGC 18 is over now, really, so I guess there's not really much point in offering this team to you to use in any tournaments, but if you ever want to use this again in any fun tournaments there may be in the past, then feel free to take it and have a go with it and see what you think to it. But there we go. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I hope you've enjoyed looking at my team, my spreads and everything. But tomorrow and the next day, I think the next 2 days, I'll be uploading a couple of videos that I recorded on my phone, so apologies for the quality, but of actual games from Worlds where you can see Smeargle doing some business. So look forward to those. Please subscribe and stay tuned for that because I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So thanks guys, and goodbye for now.